Now, I welcome in the name of Folklore all the other participants who have joined us in this webinar. The presentation today has two parts. The first part will be presented by Father Stephen Jayad, and the second part, of course, by Father Thomas Kulangaram. In between, we have a short break. Then after that, we have a little time for interaction. There will also be a question and answer session. Those who like to clarify and give your comments and feedback, you are most welcome. Now I invite Father Stephen Jayad, Reverend Dr. Stephen Jayad, to take the mic.
So good. Thank you, Suse, for the kind words, and I'm glad to share some of the ideas of the Pope's encyclical. I'll try to share the screen. Hope you get it. Let's see. Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Right. Yeah.
Fratelli Tutti on fraternity and social friendship. Is it available? Are you able to see the slide?
You can make it full size.
Yes,
It's
Father.
available.
Yes,
Make
yes.
it a full
Yes,
screen.
Father, we can see.
Full screen.
We need full screen. It will be. Yeah.
One second.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's
Thank
okay,
you.
okay.
I kept modem that says less power. Let me see. Okay now. Yeah, okay, so we shall begin. How much time do you have, Susai?
You can take about 20-25 minutes.
20-25 minutes. On social friendship, Mass at the Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, Francis in Assisi, Italy, on the 3rd of October. And this is an exact picture when he signed the document, encyclical.
Audio not clear.
Pope had already written two other encyclicals. The first one, Lumen Fidei, 2013, meaning the light of faith. And the focus was, audio not clear. Mic is on, no? Yes. Yeah. And then the second one, second encyclical is Laudato Si. Maybe one suggestion is that we can put off our videos so that it might be clear. That sometimes helps. Not because others don't want to see our faces, beautiful faces, just for the technical reasons. If we put up a video, it might help, I think. Let's see. So the second encyclical is Laudato Si in 2015, meaning praise be to you, and the main focus was the ecological concern. Now the third one is Fratelli Tutti 2020, I mean all brothers, on fraternity and social friendship. Of course, though it says brothers, it includes sisters also, because it's a quotation as it is from the writing of St. Francis of Assisi. Otherwise, it's not that Pope is not gender sensitive, not that way. Now, overview of this encyclical, it has 287 paragraphs, quite a lengthy, long encyclical with 8 chapters, with 288 footnotes, and ending with 2 prayers. One for the Creator and the other one is for ecumenical Christian prayer. The full text of the encyclical, you may check the website. Vatican website is given here. You can check whether I am faithful to Pope's ideas or I am giving ideas. In between, I give some ideas, some reflections, but I'll tell you it is my own viewpoint, right? So the full text is available here. The chapters, just I give the headlines of all the chapters. One, dark clouds over closed world. Two, a stranger on the road. Three, envisaging and engendering an open world. A heart open to the whole world. Envisaging means imagining, we are viewing, we are looking forward. And engendering, trying to produce, making the same thing. And then fifth is a better kind of politics. And sixth chapter, dialogue and friendship in society. 7, paths of renewed encounter. And the 8th and the last chapter, religions at the service of fraternity in our world. These last 3 chapters, Father Thomas Kolongara will introduce to us these 3 chapters. First, let us give some general ideas of the first 5 chapters with 1 or 2 my personal comments. And then we focus on specific themes and highlights of the whole encyclical. So first we give some general idea of the first 5 chapters. Chapter 1, dark clouds over a closed world. In dark clouds itself shows a sort of negative or gloomy kind of thing, and where Pope Francis highlights what are the negative or inhuman realities that is taking place around. The first chapter, Pope Francis out some trends in the world today that he finds running counter to seeing each other as brothers and sisters. The loss of historical human rights, fear of immigrants, and the superficiality of digital connection that can lead to aggression and polarization. These are some of the evils or some of the shortcomings that we are facing today in the world. Pope says the gap between the concern for one's personal well-being and the prosperity of the larger human family seems to be stretching to the point of complete division between individuals and human community. It's one thing to feel forced to live together, but something entirely different to value the richness and the beauty of the others. Now, living in a society, sometimes we are forced that we have to live together, but without any concern for one another, without any real warmth and the friendship and so on. So he says it's one thing to feel forced to live together. It is entirely another thing to value the richness and the beauty of others when we enrich. Chapter 2, a stranger on the road. Immediately it might remind you of the great parable of Good Samaritan, the stranger on the road, brutally injured or by the robbers. Now, Pope Francis also highlights, reminds us of the scene of Good Samaritan, Jesus' parable. And he says, this parable offers a rays of hope. If not some people, at least there is one Good Samaritan who comes and helps that wounded. Similarly, this situation gives a ray of light in the midst of what we are experiencing. The numbers in the bracket, I have given it is the paragraph number of the encyclical from Fratelli Tutti. It's a reminder that the natural love we experience for family members should be consciously extended to those who are strangers to us. It's quite easy for us to love our own family people, etc. But Pope invites us to extend to others. This care must be expressed both personally, case by case, and community as a family. So individuals also as a community. Each new day should be seen as an opportunity to include, integrate, and lift up the Father, rather than arena for our own power play. Good Samaritan, of course, we know he is not just helping out of his way, but he's risking his very life, no? Because the wounds are, and Good Samaritan goes and helps him, the others might come and attack him as well. So he's risking his own life in helping out. And that is why Jesus appreciates him. And today cognitive sciences speak about mirror neurons. Of course, this is my reflection. Mirror neurons are the neurons which enable us to see ourselves in the person who is suffering. This is quite natural and spontaneous. That is why when someone is wounded, bleeding, right, we have natural feeling of sympathy. One happens to slip and fall, we extend our hand to help him or to hold him or her. And we say immediately, we make noise, sorry, sorry, like that. So these are all spontaneous things. We don't plan and make that noise or make that move. because in our brain, there are some neurons called mirror neurons. These neurons make us think that if I am in his or her position, how will I feel? So naturally, that enables us to make this kind of gesture to help him or to come forward, right? Now today, how to cultivate mirror neurons experiences so that we become naturally, spontaneously sympathetic to others. And very often we want to help, but we are not helping because of various other reasons. Maybe Pope Francis reminds us that Good Samaritan had a spontaneous feeling of helping others. We need to do that way. Now, chapter 3, envisaging and engendering an open world. Social loving dimension of human life is universal, natural, and essential. This social life, family life, is universal ourselves and draws the ones we love into ourselves. True love also impels us towards universal communion. By its very nature, love calls for growth in openness and the ability to accept others as part of continuing adventure that makes every periphery converge in a greater sense of mutual belonging. So there is a natural love which forcing us, which making us, propelling us to reach out to the others. If we accept the great principle that there are rights born inalienable human dignity, we can rise to the challenge of envisaging a new humanity. So Pope again and again in other places also, and in this encyclical also, highlights this point that we need to recognize the inalienable human dignity and the rights, human rights, basic fundamental rights. Once we are aware of it, naturally we will imagine and we work for a new humanity. You know, this human dignity is given to us. It is not up to us or up to anyone to increase or destroy or to remove or to create. It is the very fact that we are born as a human person, that dignity is there. Now, Charles Davis has done a lot of research on this human dignity from the moral theology perspectives. Maybe he can add a comment or so later. What we are is because of others. We all know because we are all social beings. Today, what I am is because of the others. If others are not there, I cannot be there. And we need to realize more and more. Realizing a human potentiality, it is because of the others. Supposing a child is left all alone after the birth, the child most likely cannot survive at all, right? Because it is the child is most human being is the most dependent creature compared to any other creature in the world, right? The human child is dependent entirely on the parents and the others for its survival. So if it is left all alone, it cannot even survive. You know, sometimes back they made a study with some research, Wolf Child. It came as a novel and a movie also. The scientific researchers took the baby, 3-day-old baby, to the forest and they let the child to grow along with the wolves. There the mother wolf, because of the maternal instinct, protected the child and the child started growing. After 13 years, when the researchers go there, the child is afraid of looking at the human beings, whereas the child is very much at home with the other wolves, animals in the forest. And above all, the child is not able to utter any word in any language, not even a single word in any language, could not speak. The child is making noise, yelling, howling, etc. And above all, the child is not able to stand on 2 legs to walk. It was all the time crawling on the 4 legs. Now, we need to realize that the child, though it was born as a human being, human person with full faculties, etc., the same chromosome and so on, the child could not recognize or realize the potentialities precisely because she lacked the human family, human society. When the girl was 8 months or 1 year old, there was no one to hold the hands of the child to make her walk. That is why the child did not realize, could not realize the faculty, ability of walking or talking. And that shows how much we are all social beings. We need the family and the society. And chapter 4, a heart open to the whole world. The plight of the migrants and immigrants is a repeated theme throughout the encyclical, but this chapter 4 focuses on that in a very specific way. Of course, this migrants, immigrants is an international issue. We need an international response and dealings with that. We need to welcome them as our brothers and sisters, not as strangers, because they are also members of one human family, the larger family. Each particular group becomes part of the fabric of the universe of communion, and discovers its own beauty. All individuals, no matter where they come from, what language they speak, doesn't matter. They all belong to this one family. And he points out the tension between globalization and localization. Maybe a little more on this later, globalization. Today it is a buzzword, right? Everywhere we speak about globalization, not only knowledge and money, opportunities, etc. Now the sickness, the infection, now this COVID-19 also has become globalized, right? And that's a positive and negative. We will see later more on that. Chapter 5, a better kind of politics. Two movements hinder our ability to see the world as open and having a place for all people. That is populism and liberalism. Populism distorts the notion of people in a closed and exclusionary way. And liberalism, specifically neoliberalism, exalts the marketplace as a solution to all problems to the benefit of only to those some people.
So I come to the next chapter. In summary, the chapter is titled Paths of Renewed Encounter. We need to discover new paths for healing the wounds of the world and for renewed encounter. We have to start with a penitential memory. By this, the Pope means that we should remember the past in order to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. Building up of peace requires three elements: truth, justice, and mercy. All these elements are to be integrated. The path of peace is not a uniform pattern. We need reconciliation, but reconciliation is based on truth. The value of being together as human beings is more important than lesser values like our small identities. Can you hear me rather well?
Yes.
Hello? Is my speech sufficiently
Yes.
clear?
Yes, Father. Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
better.
now it's clear enough.
Yeah, now,
Thank you.
now
So
it's
I
clear.
go
Now it's
ahead.
clear.
Now it's
Okay,
clear.
very good. Thank you very much. Okay, now in our process of dialogue, the Pope suggests that we have to begin with the least. Building social friendship means making friendship with the poor, with the marginalized. The option for the poor should lead us to friendship with the poor. At the same time, forgiveness is needed. We cannot ask people to forgive on a mass scale. Rather, forgiveness is a personal act. Legitimate conflicts and forgiveness is another subtitle. The Pope says that when we pursue living the gospel, legitimate conflicts can come. When we stand for Christ, people may oppose us and persecute us, but we have to practice kindness and endurance without any intention of any revenge. That is the only way. We should never fuel anger. We should continue in dialogue without any intention to take revenge. Authentic reconciliation is not fleeing from conflict, but living in conflict, dialoguing continuously, with a merciful heart. Here, he brings in an important principle. He says, unity is greater than conflict. Therefore, there is already a unity which we may experience on a transcendental level. So that can resolve our conflicts through ongoing dialogue. We cannot ask people for a social forgiveness, but personal forgiveness is the best we can do. However, forgiving does not mean forgetting. We have to remember. Then he speaks about war and death penalty and concludes that both war and death penalty are no solutions for building up a society. Therefore, all forms of war should be ended. Chemical, biological, and atomic weapons are to be eliminated. A total elimination of nuclear weapons is a mandate for peace. However, he recognizes the need to impose penalties on evildoers. Now I come to the last chapter, which is on inter-religious dialogue. The Pope asserts that all religions are within the plan of God. All religions have fundamentally the principle of loving God and loving the neighbor. So what we need is a continuous coming into contact with the people of different religions, pursuing peace and the path of justice. How can we remain Christians and at the same time dialogue with others? The Pope is very clear on this. The Pope says that all religions contain rays of truth, which the Catholic Church never rejects. But in our dialogal encounter with other religions, we can never cease to be Christians, because it is the Christian gospel which inflames us, which inflames us with the fire of mercy, with the fire of love. So without ceasing to be Christians, we have to encounter people of other religions in loving dialogue. Another important thing is that all religions should join hands in working for a better world. For humanitarian actions, we need to join hands with other religions. Then he speaks about violence and religion. He expresses his conviction that all religions contain elements of peace and truth, and no religion, in fact, warrants violence. Violence is used by terrorists by a misinterpretation of the scriptures. So he invites us to go into the depth of the scriptures of the world religions to discover messages of peace and truth and charity. Therefore, we cannot use religion for violence. At the same time, he says the religions should join hands to engage themselves for activities aimed at the betterment of the world. Any form of totalitarianism which rejects human dignity is against religion. So faith in God will help us to be more considerate towards others. The church cannot restrict her mission to private spheres. Rather, we should engage ourselves in social actions for the betterment of the world. We are to reawaken the spiritual energy to work for the society. The spiritual energy released by religions should be brought together for building up peace in the society. To conclude, the Pope speaks about the demand on the Church to go back to the fundamental rights of all religions. So religious freedom is a fundamental right, and the Pope pleads that in regions, in nations where Christians are minorities, they should be granted full religious freedom. In Christian countries, the other religions should be granted full freedom. And religion never propagates violence. So the Pope invites all of us to work together with all the brothers and sisters of all religions for a better world by making friendship with others, people of other religions, with the poorest, and even with our own opponents. So his model of a new world is that of a polyhedron. That means a model in which the differences coexist with mutual understanding, respect, in a view to enrich one another. It's a beautiful worldview in which we can find a very happy engagement. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Thomas.
Yes.
Are you speaking still? No.
I'm here. I just finished. I concluded.
Okay. Thank you very much. And for explaining to us the view of Pope on in a multi-religious cultural context, how we need to approach each other, how you can build a united world. So thank you for explaining all these things to us. Now I think we are here for an hour, and Stephen also is ready. Why can't we take a break?
Okay. How long?
Take a break for about 5 minutes, and
Good.
we come back and we listen to Father Stephen.
Okay.
The main thrust of the encyclical, Pope is somehow sadly aware that the world is sick, and worse pandemic like inequality, indifference to others, xenophobia. What's the xenophobia? It is the intense and irrational dislike to people of other countries. So these kind of things are more dangerous, more harmful than the pandemic itself. And Pope is sad about it. And then he invites us to be a good Samaritan, share with others the gift of our time. Building a healthier society starts with encountering our strangers, our neighbors. As I mentioned earlier also, it is easy perhaps to be good to our own people, family, friends, but we are called to be a good Samaritan to the strangers. Goods are meant to be shared. Better politics is to recognize the universal destination. Now, this is not for private. We need to share with others. And today, the world politics, Pope says, I need to ensure that humanity is served by wealth, not ruled by it. So wealth and money and property should be there to serve humanity. It is not there to rule humanity. Pope for keeping economy as the topmost criterion in this encyclical and many other encyclical, and even when he gives homilies and so on. How can it be that it is not a news item when an elderly homeless person dies of exposure, but it is news when the stock market loses 2 points? Is raising this question. Human rights are not only violated by terrorism, repression, or assassination, but also by unfair economic structures that create huge inequalities, the rich becoming richer and the poor becoming poorer. And the fourth point, so he elaborates a little more, economic instabilities and inequalities due to globalization. Globalization is dangerous. Lots of negative effects of globalization. I just want to highlight a couple of things based on Pope's warning and caution. It creates, globalization creates job insecurity, exploitation of cheap labor, because in some countries, labor is cheap, so they exploit. They're exploited by the rich countries. Imposing of food habits, no, because one country, powerful country grows a lot of things and they have in excess, they impose the food habits and things. Diversity in agriculture and rearing of livestock is destroyed because of globalization. Because labor is cheap, more work, draining of the local natural resources. So all the other countries come and drain out the natural resources of that country where the labor is cheap. Imposition of Western culture. And as that transaction become online, there is no face-to-face interactions. Human relationships get mechanized. Travel is no interactions with people, no learning of other cultures, more intolerance is on the increase because of not traveling. As money is important, values are forgotten and denied. Unequal distribution of the benefits. People are exploited and the profits are taken back to the rich countries. And then for Felix Wilfred, in some writings he has mentioned, for example, in India, the number of multinational companies was 7,000 in 1970. This became 37,000 in 1991, and it became 45,000 parent firms with 280,000 affiliates in 1995. See the enormous and exponential growth of these MNCs. Originality and the uniqueness of cultures are not respected as uniformity is stressed throughout mass media. In the next point, when he speaks about migration, he will highlight again this point. Political freedom is under threat, and privatization of industries, education, and healthcare. Everywhere is private. The people are not able to have their rightful, their access to education or health. Now, globalization challenges. Now, whole earth is like this, made into pieces just for the sake of few countries or few companies. Now, again, us to love beyond barriers. This is a repeated theme in his whole encyclical. It is easier to love our own, but our love is not confined to physical proximity, but the barriers of geography, goes beyond language, region, diocese, congregation, and blood relationships. We acknowledge, appreciate, and love each person. Then welcoming the migrants. Here he specifically focuses on this issue in the chapter 4, though he makes a reference to the issues of migrants in the encyclical throughout. Can we accept migrants as brothers and sisters? Whom shall we give importance? For one's own natives or migrants, or for both equally? Right? And defend the centrality of the human person is very important. Migrants lack participation. They cannot participate in the life of the society. Migrants may endanger the life of the people of the place to which they are migrated. And migration causes fear and alarm. Fear for legal reasons, fear of religious conversions, and fear of economic breakdowns. And when these people are migrated to other places, their culture, their religion, their lifestyle, everything is in danger. Whereas most of us have not experienced a horrible event of migrating to other places in our own lives. You see, this is some of the scenes very pathetic, and how they all rush to get into a small boat because it's a matter of life and death for them. And more people get to it, very often the boat capsizes, and such incidents kill many people. Seeking is a human right. If one country, for some reasons or the other, not viable for their life, they have to migrate to others, and others have the duty to accept them because we are belong to one family. Refugees are not terrorists, not criminals. Seeking asylum is legal. The migrants lose their own culture in the new place. They sometimes look down upon their own cultural identity as if they are the sole cause of every evil, and tend to exaggerate the beauty and richness of the culture or the place of migration. They experience cultural and religious uprooting, like fish out of water. And slowly the first generation, second generations totally forget about their own culture. For this reason, there is also a need to reaffirm the right not to immigrate, that is, to remain in its own homeland. So we should create a situation where the people can stay back in their own land and have a better life. That's what Pope Benedict also said in 2012. Migrants are having equal human dignity. We need to have a creative openness towards migrants. They should be allowed to contribute to the betterment of the society of their migration. So, stranger, and you welcomed me, no? The words of Jesus. feeling at home with everyone. So this is what Pope Francis makes sure whenever he visits a place. The encyclical invites us to opt for the world as one family. Interestingly, in Indian philosophy, we have this expression, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Vasudha, the earth, Eva, indeed, Kutumbakam, family. The whole earth is one family, and this particular point is being reiterated, reaffirmed many times. Seventh point would be media and technology today. We all know the impact that the media and technology, both print media and then visual media also. Though social media and other technological advancements facilitate certain comforts of some human lives, humanity itself may be at risk due to uncontrolled promotion and usages of the technology. They may facilitate the spread of fake news and false information, fomenting prejudice and hatred. Many virtual relationships, we are prisoners of a virtual reality. We lost the taste, flavor of truly real. Digital relationships have the appearance of sociability, yet they do not really build community. So Pope Francis cautions us, of course, if there is nothing else can be done like our own virtual meeting, this is the best way. But whenever there is a possibility of coming together as a community, face-to-face interaction, that would be more important. That should be encouraged rather than these meetings. The flood of information at our fingertips does not make for greater wisdom. Wisdom is not born of quick searches on the internet, right? Again, today we live in an instant culture, right? Everything instant. Coffee is instant, dress instant, photograph is instant, even passport is instant, tailor is instant, so food is instant. So everything is instant. So we look for the instant culture in our relationships, in our spirituality, but it's not possible. Similarly, instantly arrived or derived information, knowledge can disappear instantly. What we need is interpersonal relationships and experience of individuals and peoples in the authentic encounters and conversations. In the life of our efficient pastoral methods may not be very often effective. You know, about this information, knowledge, and wisdom. Today we have plenty of information, as you know. Just go to Google and type anything there, you'll get plenty of information. You just type there, you'll get hundreds of articles on donkeys. Donkeys in America, donkeys in Australia, donkeys in Switzerland and India, right? You just remove the name donkey and type Stephen Jaya. You'll get some articles, some talks that I gave, some information about me. Now I'm giving Donkey and Stephen together, not because both are same, okay? I'm just saying, whatever you type there in the Google search, you'll get it. So we have plenty of information. Sometimes we have more than necessary. No, do we need all this kind of plenty of sea of information, ocean of information? Whether all this information turning into knowledge, question mark. Whether this knowledge is becoming wisdom, another question mark. And that's what T.S. Eliot says, in the process of living, we lose the life itself. Therefore, perhaps in different ways and words, Pope Francis reminds us to be wise, not otherwise, right? To be wise by giving importance to all the positive things, but not otherwise, and being cautious about all the other negative things, anti-social, anti-human elements in life. Then women trafficking, again, important topic for Pope in many writings and daily homilies and reflections. He always points to this one. It's an undeniable fact that women are not respected as equally as men in many areas of societal life in the modern world today. No matter whether the particular country is highly educated, highly advanced in other fronts, but still when it comes to the question of recognizing the dignity of women, much is wanting there. They are treated as objects, as means to certain, living in conditions akin to slavery, deprived of freedom. That's why he says, the organization of societies worldwide is still far from reflecting clearly that women possess the same dignity and identical rights as men. We say one thing with words, but our decisions and reality tell another story. And when we give proper opportunities for women to study, to realize all the potentialities, and when we involve them in the decision making and policy making, surely the society will be much, much better. Now, indeed, doubly poor are those women who endure situations of exclusion, mistreatment, and violence, since they are frequently less able to defend their rights. Now we all know, this is my own little idea. No family or society can have holistic growth if it fails to duly recognize and acknowledge the dignity of it. When a man is educated, an individual is educated. But when a woman is educated, a family is educated. Startling discoveries by the neuroscience and cognitive sciences today, the advantages of a female brain over a male brain, right? Some of you may be surprised. There are plenty of materials available in the internet. The advantages of a female brain over a male brain, because the cognitive power is more, right, with the female brain, because certain areas in the brain, female brain, are much developed, for example, the linguistic areas. Anyway, it's a big topic in itself, maybe some other time, to show how this female brain is in a position to absorb more and it can produce more. So when we include these female brains more and more in all our researches, discovery process, etc., certainly even our science would be much better, it is believed. And the Pope finishes with a prayer to the Creator. I just have a quick reading. God, Father of a human family, you created all human beings equal in dignity. Pour forth into our hearts a fraternal spirit and inspired in us a dream of renewed encounter, dialogue, justice, and peace, about which Father Thomas Kolonkaraj just now shared. Move us to create healthier societies and a more dignified world, a world without hunger, poverty, violence, and war. May our hearts be open to all the peoples and nations of the earth. May we recognize the goodness and beauty that you have sown in each of us, and thus forge bonds of unity, common projects, and shared dreams. Amen. Then there is another ecumenical Christian prayer with which he ends. And finally, my dear friends, a couple of points. Today, the world is like this, right? Everybody is with a mask, and the globe is also with the mask, unfortunately. And modern world is full of paradoxes. We all know we have taller buildings but shorter tempers, wider freeways but narrower viewpoints. We spend more but have less. We buy more but enjoy less. We have bigger houses but smaller families, more conveniences but less time. We have more degrees but less sense, more knowledge but less judgment, more experts yet more problems, more medicine but less wellness. We have conquered the atom but not our prejudice. We write more but learn less. We talk more but listen less. We plan more but accomplish less. We have learned to rush but not to wait. We build more computers to hold more information, to produce more copies than ever, but we communicate less and less. These are the days of two incomes but more divorce in the families, fancier houses but broken homes. And we talk too much, love too seldom, and hate too often. We have learned how to make a living but not a life. We have added years to life but not life to years. We have been all the way to the moon and back but have trouble crossing the street to meet a new neighbor. We have conquered open space but not inner space. We have done larger things but not better things. So in this context, what Pope reminds us and reinforces is very, very valid. For example, COVID-19 revived the sense that we are a global community. One person's problems are the problems of all. Once more, we realize that no one is saved alone, can only be saved together. We thought this COVID-19 is somewhere very far off, in China, and then in that country, this country, then within India, in the north and the south, finally, our next door, our own neighbors, sometimes in our own families, you see. So we are all one family. There is no more separation. The COVID-19 pandemic unexpectedly erupted, exposing our false securities. Whatever you have been thinking is a source of security has been shattered. We are struggling to solve the problems that affect us all. Aside from the different ways that various countries responded to the crisis, their inability to work together became quite evident. No one can face life in isolation. Let's dream as a single human family, as fellow travelers, sharing the same flesh, as children of the same earth, which is our common home. This is what he reiterated in the Laudato Si in his second encyclical. Each of us bringing her the richness of his or her beliefs and convictions, each of us with his or her own voice, brothers and sisters all. Yes, I would add along with that, it is high time that we remembered Cain's question and God's indirect answer. What was Cain's question? Am I my brother's keeper? and Genesis 4:2-10. And God said, yes, you are your brother's keeper, but of course in an indirect way, because the very fact that God punished Cain without answering this question directly, he punished Cain for killing his brother. So God's answer is, you are his brother. That would be a reminder for us. We are all the keepers of one another. And this is the point very powerfully, forcefully being brought out in different words and different ideas, different analogies by the Pope in this encyclical. So with this, I end. Thanks very much. Yes.
So thank you very much, Father Stephen. Hello. Yeah. Thank you, Stephen, for having elaborated the encyclical and adding with your own comments. As really, it was nice. It helped us to understand the encyclical of the Pope and the different elements that enslave us and the worries that we have, and how we can go from here to build a united world, to build a fraternity among ourselves. So thank you very much. And we are very sorry for the interruption in between the session. And this is a technical problem, or the problem with the internet that we faced this problem. We are very sorry for that. And now it's a time for interaction. Maybe you can give your impression, or you can ask questions to the two resource persons. Father Thomas is here and Father Stephen is available, so you can ask questions. Maybe Father Stephen can moderate the session.
Yes.
So, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, Father John.
Yeah, John. See, I am from Bombay, Xavier's Mahim, Xavier Institute of Engineering, Mahim. I like the presentation very much. You know, I do not know. Maybe the question. Please just hold on. May not be the resource person can answer this, but any woman who is present can answer. You know, the title. As soon as the title came, there are many oppositions, both from the feminist side and also men who feel that the women are not given important place in the church. You know, all brothers, correct? That is the meaning, correct? Though the actual, I mean, we can interpret all humanity. But I think the words, I do not know Italian, but what I read in the internet and so on, there is an objection to the title itself, which does not include women. So I do not know how do the women see it as it is. I just want to know about the title itself. You know, whether Pope could be more sensitive to choose a title which includes very specifically like men and women, or you know, they could have corrected it, especially because people are aware of this. The women, more and more women are feeling out of church, not given importance in the church. So any woman can in this section, any woman present can answer this.
One person's her views. Shall I say something?
Yeah, please go ahead, please.
In the beginning, I mentioned that Fratelli Tutti is all brothers. It is exact quotation from the writing document of St. Francis of Assisi of the 13th century. And sun is my brother, moon is my brother, etc. So this is a quotation of the two words from that particular thing. And as you said rightly, otherwise Pope gives so much importance for gender sensitivity and the importance of women. In fact, he is speaking so much about women trafficking in this encyclical itself. Maybe because he's liking his St. Francis of Assisi, he wanted to take that exact word and use it. Perhaps he would have used a better expression, better title, I don't know, that is there. But the meaning is, it is not his two words. The Fratelli Tutti is the borrowing or taking, cutting, pasting from Francis Assisi's document. Yeah, that's my comment. Now open to other women to answer.
Actually, we don't have many women present except 2, 3.
Yeah.
And if they're not prepared, maybe we can wait for a few seconds. If somebody answers, we go ahead. Otherwise, we take what Stephen said. Yes, Sister Teresa.
Yes, Father Susai Alangaram, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What I feel is, I agree with the Father Stephen Jayad. I don't think when Pope took this expression from St. Francis of Assisi, we are inclusive of men as well as women. In fact, I did not have this thought at all in my mind till this Father asked the question. The Pope could have included women in an expressive way in the title even. But he has very well explained even in the content of the encyclical. So as for me, I am happy about it, because not because he has not expressed openly, but I feel that I am included, maybe indirectly, may not be directly, but indirectly. When Francis speaks about, that is, Francis of Assisi speaks about the entire universe, the birds, the trees and everything, we are much more included as human beings and as men and women. This is what I feel as a woman.
Thank you, sister. Take it very positively.
Yes.
And Father Charles Davis, you have commented something. Could you please add something? Your comments, please. But Charles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've been, yeah. Though we understand normally man also includes woman, but in the modern time, I think could have been better to use the word in the title itself instead of thinking that we indirectly include women. And let us also change in the language our patriotical thinking, you know.
There's one comment. Can I add something to it, Susai?
I shall tell Pope Francis next time.
Yeah. So it's a suggestion to Pope, right, to be inclusive in the title itself. But otherwise, we know his personality, how he is fighting for rights, etc. And Charles Davis also in passing said, we have been thinking that woman is included in man. Actually, it is the other way about. Even in the spelling, woman, we find man inside. So perhaps it's a time that we speak about woman, which includes man also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes. Are there other questions? Or your impressions? And before we conclude, maybe we can give our feedbacks to our two resource persons who has done a real hard work, and it is a elaborate presentation and very inclusive of all the details of what Pope Francis tells us in the encyclical. They put a real hard work to brief us on this encyclical. And maybe we can say a few words about the two speakers. Apart from the technical problem we had, the disturbance in the volume and the video.
Good morning, fathers. Good morning, Father Susai Alangaram, and the resource persons, Reverend Father Stephen Gerard and Reverend Father Thomas Kulangara. So, dear Father, really, we had a very, very enriching, sharing. It's in the, I don't know whether you call it a seminar, but I feel, it's really more enriching and knowledgeable. And as Father Susarangaram said, in a more detailed manner, two of the fathers clarified all 8 chapters and they explained this in detail. And now, as of now, and all those who participated in the Zoom meeting are able to have exactly what Pope Francis is trying to tell to the world. So wholeheartedly thank to resource persons and Father Selangaram, and also special thanks to Father Savary Ammapete Parish Priest, who has given me this opportunity to join this Zoom meeting. Yeah, so it's really very much enriching, Father, and sharing some other fathers, Father for Charles Davis and other father, I don't know the name, and everyone really the questions and the sharings are really thought-provoking and very much enriching, and the sister too. So thanks to all of you, and I really from the bottom of my heart thank everyone for this special meeting, Zoom meeting by Father Susalangaram. So thank you, Father. Thanks a lot.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you, Henry.
Yes, Father. Thank you, Father.
Thank you,
Is there
Father.
anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah. Father Thomas, would you like to say something at the end? Because we are going to conclude now. Your mic, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes.
hear you.
Okay. I personally find that the vision of the world as Pope Francis envisages is very, very attractive. We have to admit that we are in a pluralistic society, and every man and woman has a right to be what he or she is. And the model of polyhedron that he proposes is very challenging. We have to live not fleeing from the situation, accepting and dialoguing continuously. Even when we don't reach explicit consensus, we can believe that unity is stronger than the divisions existing. The whole is greater than the sum total of its parts. These are marvelous ideas which enable us to go ahead striving after a new world. And the Pope says, the Christian ministers, for that matter, all the ministers of all the religions, have to leave the sacristy and go to the peripheries to meet people, especially those who are underprivileged and marginalized. Make friendship with them. The idea of social friendship, the idea of a new social covenant are really challenging. We need a new world where all the religions undergo transformation to make up what God wants. And no religion or no man or woman in the world is outside the concern and love and plan of God. That's my message at the end.
So thank you very much for Thomas. Yes, Stephen, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to add, Einstein, great scientist, he also said, individual trees are not forests. Just the putting together some trees are not forests, because forest is its own ecosystem. Similarly, today human society is not just individuals, it's much more than that. And Pope Francis is always highlighting and stressing upon that. I just wanted to add a note of thanks for, first of all, for SUSAI to think of this and organize, take the initiative, because that made me read this particular encyclical. I wish I would have kept it to read later. I got the chance to read. And of course, what we have presented is only that. So please watch the whole movie, read the whole encyclical, and you will gain much more. Because what you have given is only recipe. You cannot eat the recipe. You have to prepare food with the recipe. It's only menu card. It's not the food as such. So we thank Father Susai for the initiative, also for the opportunity given to me to share some of my ideas. Hope it makes some sense. Okay. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Yeah, for Charles, you are trying to say something?
Placido has sent a note of thanks. Placido.
Okay. So your mic is off. Charles, your mic is off.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, okay then. And okay, as a conclusion, I'd like to thank everyone, and in particular for Thomas and for the Stephen